Of course, I hope it's very nice where you live in Cincinnati. It's been a very, very sunny week over here in Britain. The sun has been out, although, of course, there's a bit of hay fever around. And what was it? Yes. Pierre Gasly and Lance Stroll have announced their contract extensions. Pierre Gasly, well, it looks like he's determined to stay at Alpine. I wish there was a better seat available, but honestly, I don't really see what's coming for him. And yes, I think you have realised I have been talking about the European Championships for the past 2 weeks on my Encore Football channel. There's not really much to say, to be honest. I mean, in terms of Formula One, Max Verstappen back to winning ways. I think we have to. Well, obviously, what we have seen this season is better than what we saw at the start of last season. But I just don't get the sense that Lando Norris has that edge on him. I just don't sense that he can really get into Max Verstappen's head. And when it comes to his sort of racecraft, his decision making, it is somewhat lacking at times. He's got the raw speed, but he's kind of lacking in a lot of other areas. And I think everyone knows that raw speed in itself is not enough to succeed in Formula One. Hello to whoever's turned on to watch my video. Yeah, it's definitely better than last year. Absolutely no doubt. I have come up with an idea, and if you are watching my Encore Football channel, and my idea is that because obviously the knockout stages is coming, I'm going to be rolling a dice and making predictions based on a dice roll, a coin throw, and maybe even these cards here, like these old school playing cards. So I hope you do join me on my Encore Football channel when I get a live stream running up later tonight. Pierre Gasly, I mean, I've been sitting there wondering, could he join Audi Sauber? But of course, he would have to be teammates with Nico Hulkenberg. Nico Hulkenberg is still ridiculously quick at nearly 37 years old. And with Nico Hulkenberg obviously aware that his time in F1 is going to be running out soon, I think Hulkenberg will be the most undoubted, the most blatant number one driver you'll see coming. Because yes, I know he's married and I know he now has a kid, but I think because of the fact that at some point his family will probably turn around and say to him, you probably should retire from F1 soon, he's going to want to try and make the most out of however many years he's got left in F1, but it'd be like 3 or 4 years left, because of course, I mean, having had a break for about 3 years from F1, of course, I think Hulkenberg will drive into his 40s because he's going to want to try and make up for lost time, and he's going to want to make up more crucially for all those lost opportunities for victories and podiums. Of course, yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, Lance Stroll has announced a new deal with his dad's team, Aston Martin, and Pierre Gasly will remain at Alpine for next year. So technically, no, there's been no changes at all. I don't know where the word change came out to my mouth if I accidentally said it. I beg your pardon if I confused you, but it has to be said, a lot of this transfer market is beginning to settle down, apart from the fact that, of course, nobody knows where Carlos Sainz will end up. That is still a massive mystery, and I think he's still holding out for a Mercedes seat, even though, of course, I think Kimi Antonelli... Oh, right, the change to my channel. Oh, right, yeah, I was talking about the football, sorry. I said on my Encore Football channel, for my Euros predictions for the knockout stages for the last 16 quarterfinals, semis, and the final, they'll be doing like a dice roll to do predictions for the football matches. I beg your pardon if I did not explain that clearly enough. So, the change to my channel, no, there's been no changes to Crystal Racing channel. What can I say? Oh yeah, what was I talking about? Nico Hulkenberg. Oh yeah, Carlos Sainz. I think that's more of an ongoing story. The problem with Carlos Sainz is that what I think is going to be available left is a seat at Haas, a seat at Williams, and a seat at Alpine, which I don't think seems that desirable to Carlos because, of course, I think that Sauber second seat will be going to Teo Porcher or Zane Maloney for next season because, of course, they are a pair of junior drivers. Sauber has invested good money into their junior careers for the teams they've driven for in Formula 2. Alex Albon will continue with Williams for next season. So I think the only other variable that is coming is the fact that Dan Ricciardo is apparently rumoured to be on the verge of losing his seat for next season, which is... Well, that's a huge story if we're going to be honest, because I've got no idea what's going to happen to Daniel Ricciardo, to be honest. Because, let's face it, if he does lose his seat, I know some people think he will probably leave Formula 1, but if he was willing to lower his wage demands, I think he could easily get a seat at Williams, Alpine, and Haas, or maybe even Sauber. So... really, we have a situation where Ricciardo and Carlos Sainz are actually potentially now going to, could be getting in each other's way of each other's futures in Formula 1 in terms of which teams they can join. Now, I know Daniel Ricciardo has not been particularly amazing. And I know there are rumours that he will be replaced by Liam Lawson, but... I did say in that video about my warning to Daniel Ricciardo that he could, if he actually does carry on beating Yuki Tsunoda, he could have a chance of rescuing his F1 career, even if he ends up leaving the RB team. Because Logan Sargeant, he's not that good, is he? I mean, Williams really could do with any sort of upgrade on Logan Sargeant. Logan Sargeant is just way below requirements. And we have to remember, Daniel Ricciardo is a massive marketing asset. The memes, the honey badger emblem, his smile, the fact that sponsors like him. Like, whilst his driving skills are not exactly what they once were 10 years ago, the advertisers and the sponsors do want, like, Daniel Ricciardo is kind of a bit like Fernando Alonso and a bit like Sergio Perez in that he brings eyeballs onto the screens. He's got a fairly loyal fan base. He has 8 Grand Prix wins to his name. Like, he has status within the sport. He's not some nobody. Even though, in terms of whether I personally want Daniel Ricciardo to continue in Formula 1, the answer is absolutely no. But if Daniel Ricciardo can still score points here and there and be able to help teams register points on the constructors' points table and bring in prize money, he can pretty much keep a seat in F1 as long as he wants, if I'm going to be genuinely honest. Zhou Guanyu obviously only exists in F1. He only drives for Sauber because of the money he brings in from China. Once that money from China disappears, so does Zhou Guanyu. And Stroll, as we know, will continue to keep a seat in F1 until his dad finally wakes up and smells the coffee. Haas, well, who knows what's going to happen to Haas? I mean, I know there's rumours that Ollie Behrman could be joining. I know there's rumours Kevin Magnussen could be staying at Haas, but Kevin Magnussen's form has completely dropped off in the last 18 months, and let's face it, it's a complete miracle that he's still in the sport. He's only there because he knows the team. He has a decent relationship with the team principal, Ayo Komatsu, but I think even Ayo himself is probably beginning to honestly wonder whether the Haas team could get better drivers there. Actually, you know what? I think I might start a poll. Which teams could Daniel Ricciardo join? Because look, am I desperate to see Ricciardo remain in F1? Absolutely no. No, the guy is honestly, he's yesterday's news. He's 35 years old. He belongs firmly within the Kimi/Vettel era Formula One. He is not hot property anymore, but in terms of his driving talent, obviously, he's not really a particularly... I don't think he's in the top 10 best drivers in the sport. I mean, yes, I know he's beaten Yuki Tsunoda in the past 2 races, but Yuki Tsunoda is just average, mid-average driver. You know, yes, Yuki's improved so much in the past 18 months, but I have to wonder, is that because he's been flattered by mediocre teammates, or is that because he's truly improved? I mean, in terms of his mental approach, yeah, he's got a much better attitude now than he did 2 years ago, but has his driving talent actually increased? It's a bit, I mean, after 2 or 3 years in F1, it's very rare that a driver suddenly steps up massively in terms of their driving performances, I'm afraid. Unless, of course, they are genuinely naturally gifted, like, I don't know, Kimi Raikkonen, Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso. Apart from that, after 4 years maximum, you've hit your peak in terms of your driving skill. And when you hit the age of 25, you can't really improve much either in terms of the ceiling in your driving performance levels. So, it's such a big problem, isn't it? Haas, Williams, Alpine, I don't know. Obviously, Aston Martin's gone. Mercedes looks like it's going to Carlos Sainz or Kimi Antonelli. Oh yeah, it was Sauber, wasn't it? I forgot. I'm trying to sit there and write names down. Yep, there's the poll. Just go to, yeah, just retire. Yeah, but hello there, John Cartier. I hope you're doing very well on this beautiful Thursday evening, wherever you are in the world. But I did say though, and we have to remember, Daniel Ricciardo is a marketing asset. Do you know why he always appears? I mean, this guy is always on adverts everywhere. I know people will say, well, Valtteri Bottas appears in adverts as well, but I mean, you have to realise though, if you asked your average normie who would they recognise more easily, fact is they're more likely to recognise Daniel Ricciardo over Valtteri Bottas because, unfortunately, Valtteri Bottas's reputation as being this very grey, stale, conservative image, which I have to say, even though, yes, I know he's grown out a mustache and he's grown a mullet and dyed his hair blonde since joining Sauber, and he appeared in that cheesy advert where he was wearing some neon blue outfit for some Australian company. I think it's a case of too little, too late for Valtteri Bottas to really make himself what you would call like a marketing asset. And it's a bit sad because whilst we can criticise Ricciardo for his performances, is Bottas really better? Like, we have to realise Zhou is not a great benchmark of anything. I really don't know what to say. I mean, put 1 in the chat. Put 1. Press the number 1 in your keyboard or your phone screen if you think Valtteri Bottas is a better driver than Daniel Ricciardo. Press 1. Alternatively, you can press 2 if you think Ricciardo is a better driver than Bottas in 2024. Well, I mean, Bottas has got 1 vote. I suppose that's something. It's a strange one because I know people keep forgetting Valtteri Bottas, but we have to remember, like, I have to say, unfortunately, even though I do think Bottas is a better driver right now, I actually have to disagree in that back in, like, I don't know, 2018, that he was a better driver than Ricciardo. I think that's a bit wrong, if I'm going to be honest, because I think Ricciardo definitely was a better driver between, like, 2014 to at least about 2020. I think Ricciardo was actually the better driver, in my opinion. But since joining McLaren and then returning to the RB Junior team, Ricciardo has taken a huge step backwards. We also have to remember Ricciardo has got 8 Grand Prix victories. None of them all of those victories having come in a car that was not able to fight for a championship, whether it was at Red Bull or McLaren. So you've got to give him some credit for that. Whereas Bottas's 10 Grand Prix wins all came in the same Mercedes team, which, of course, we all know managed to win 7 consecutive constructors and drivers titles. No, 8 consecutive constructors titles. 8 consecutive constructors titles. Like, all right, yeah, fair enough. Nico Rosberg won a world championship there, but you have to realise Mercedes were literally, I think, basically carried their drivers to all their wins and championships. And yes, of course, Bottas did indeed beat Felipe Massa, but I think the phrase Brazilian pensioner comes to mind when I think of Felipe Massa's stint at Williams. I know it's a bit of a controversial one, but it's so hard because I think at its peak, Dan Ricciardo could pull out an absolute blockbuster of a race, but Valtteri Bottas was better in qualifying and just a generally more consistent driver. But one thing Dan Ricciardo also could do well at was overtaking people, and his racecraft and his ability to look after tyres when he was at Red Bull were actually rather decent. And we should not forget that there used to be compilations of Ricciardo's overtakes and his late braking manoeuvres on other drivers. Or if you compare that to Bottas, and it's almost impossible to find any clips of Bottas overtaking people, to be honest. I think most overtaking compilations you see of drivers from the past 10 years actually consist mainly of another driver overtaking Bottas for position. Which, I'm sorry, like, Bottas's racecraft has been lacking at times, and especially when you drive in the midfield, your ability to go wheel to wheel is kind of a lot more important because, of course, because it's so close to the midfield, every position counts, and the ability to jump past cars on the first 2 laps of a race really do make a huge difference. Zhou back to Alpine. I don't know what to say about that. Zhou, I don't even think Zhou has a future in Formula 1, to be honest. I know we had a decent race in Spain where, of course, he beat Stroll and finished ahead of him, and, of course, beat Bottas, but it all feels like it's all come too little too late for Zhou, and the problem with Zhou is that I think he's only ever scored 12 points in his whole 12 points? Yeah, I think he's only scored 12 points in about 2.5 years of Formula 1. And we have to remember, he did take only 7 victories in 6 years of Formula 3 and Formula 2 combined. And that statistic, it completely ignores what he did in the Asian Formula 3 series, where... Don't mention the S word. Okay, that's a bit weird. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I would like someone to explain to me. The S word, can you explain? Oh, you're in... Okay, yeah, Zhou you won the 2021 Asian Formula 3 Championship, but he was competing against the likes of Roy Nasani, quite a few unknown 18, 17-year-old kids that ended up, I don't know, going to Formula 3 and then leaving halfway through the season because they ran out of money. Oh, Lance Stroll. You know what it is, folks? I don't even want to say anymore, Lance Stroll. Dude, there's no point in me talking about Lance Stroll anymore. We all know the situation. I am just wasting my breath talking about Lance Stroll. I know he epitomizes so much wrong with what the sport has got, you know, in terms of nepotism. I know, yes, there have been plenty of drivers who have earned a seat in Formula 1, not because of their talent, but because of their bank balance and their sponsorship. So, obviously, Lance Stroll is not the first, and sadly, he will not be the last driver to be keeping a seat in Formula 1 because of how much money he has, instead of how talented or how much application he actually has to his job. Hello there, say Regora. Yeah, it's now becoming so hard to assess Lance Stroll. I mean, I know some people were attacking him for finishing behind Zhou Guanyu at the Spanish Grand Prix, but I think we have to remember Aston Martin have really lost out in the development war now. So even if you put I don't know, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc in the second seat Aston Martin, would they score that many more points? No. And they would probably remain in 5th place in the Constructors because that's what they frankly deserve. And frankly, well, honestly, they're probably going to finish 5th in the Constructors this year because, of course, thankfully for them, RB have 2 okay drivers, but 2 drivers who will never really be able to take RB into a battle for the top 5 constructors positions. Haas are just nowhere near quick enough, and of course, actually, Alpine have actually overtaken Haas for 7th place in the constructors. So I think it's just safe to say, like, with the exception of RB, the rest of the midfield is just way too far behind Aston Martin on the points table to have any chance of catching up. So that is actually a blessing in disguise because, of course, Fernando Alonso has saved Aston's bacon yet again. Steak. You mean Sauber? Oh my god, I mean, what was Sauber called? Steak F1 Sauber? Steak my breakfast Sauber? Steak my sausage up and down Sauber? Sauber F1 Wiener.com? Aston will only go backwards. I think Aston are just going to stagnate. I think Alpine, if they keep continuing their progress, especially now that they got Flavio Briatore back in as an advisor to help the team out with commercial and management issues, I think he will help. I think he actually will help Alpine improve again. But even if Alpine do improve their car and score points more consistently, I think Aston will snatch 5th place just ahead of RB and Alpine. And you have to remember, of course, if RB can get their car sorted out, I think that might block Alpine from challenging Aston Martin for 5th place. Steak. Yeah, dude, you can go and bet all your money on, I don't know, Cristiano Ronaldo scoring a goal for Portugal in the Euros. That's what you should do with Stake.com, my friend. Although I will say Cristiano Ronaldo has played pretty well in this Euros. It's just that, well, the ball won't go in the back of the net for Ronaldo when he shoots. I mean, it's just one of those things now, and you have to remember, of course, he's no longer in his physical prime, so I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying that, I really hate it when, F1 teams, choose some daft name like Visa, Cash App, Racing Balls, and everyone calls them V-Corb. Oh yeah, Papa Stroll brought autos and Ferrari mechanics in to work for Premier during Lance Stroll's time at in Formula 3. And of course he had to ask Nick Cassidy to move over for Lance Stroll on a couple of occasions in order to allow Lance Stroll to win the race. Oh, yeah, but that's the same nonsense of Cristiano Ronaldo. Let's not even go through it. It's the same thing. It's always the same histrionics with Ronaldo. To be honest, who cares, to be honest, but... just realised that the chat function has just changed on YouTube. Since, of course, I think the past two... Oh. Steak is banned in countries that don't approve of gambling. Oh, yeah, I know. I think in places like the Middle East and East Asia, they are very, very strict about gambling. I am well aware of that. Well aware of that. So, yeah. And it does seem a bit weird that Sauber decided to do a deal with Steak when they have a Chinese driver who, of course, Zhou, who gets a lot of attention back home in China. And I think there are, certain media outlets in China that have to blur out the Steak name whenever they publish a photo of Zhou Guanyu driving his Sauber. That team is absolute cabbage right now. And yes, that is very interesting, I will say. And apparently 2 people think that Daniel Ricciardo could be driving Sauber next year, which, well, I mean, if that's true, then that means that Théo Pourchaire and Zayn Maloney will never get the chance of driving for F1, if I'm going to be honest. Yeah, gambling and credit cards are the new tobacco. Absolutely right, my friend. You are spot on. I mean, I kind of think it was totally pointless to ban tobacco smoking adverts because most people don't smoke these days, especially with people under the age of 40 years old, because it's so now considered to be a rude thing to do in public, hold a cigarette and puff it out in the air. People, I mean, that sort of behaviour is seen as being extremely antisocial. I mean, yes, I know cigarettes have actually now been replaced by vapes, but considering it's now very highly frowned upon within most of the Western world and in Europe to be seen smoking cigarettes due to the obvious health risk associated with smoking. Oh yeah, Daniel Ricciardo can hook up a deal with Papa John's Pizza for Sauber next year if he comes to the Swiss team. Oh my god. And then of course we're going to probably see like idiotic like commercials with Daniel Ricciardo testing the flavors of Swiss fondue, and he'll probably like go to some Hungarian village to taste test their goulash. Yeah. And Pierre Gasly wants to stay at Alpine for the next year. To be honest, I don't really know what to say. I suppose the improved results have encouraged my preferred driver now that Kimi's gone. Beggars can't be choosers because, of course, Alex Albon has committed his future to Williams. I am probably going to spend the rest of my time for however long I remain interested in Formula One supporting a midfield driver, because I know some old Kimi Räikkönen fans now support Charles Leclerc, but I can't be dealing with Ferrari's BS anymore. I cannot be dealing with the pain, the struggle, the frustration, the heartache, the increasing number of wrinkles I will get on my face, the loss of my hairline will accelerate if I continue to support a Ferrari driver or the team in itself, and my life expectancy will continue to plummet. So, like, I can't be dealing with whatever nonsense goes on that Scuderia Ferrari. Maranello is a toxic environment full of clowns and buffoons. Is McLaren the only one now that associates with tobacco? I don't know, good. I think they might be, yeah, because I think what happened to Philip Morris? I know a few years ago, Philip Morris decided to launch the Mission Winnow advertising campaign, where of course they slapped their logos on the Ferrari 2018 cars, and of course Kimi Räikkönen won with Mission Winnow written over, painted over his Ferrari. I don't know what happened. I think Philip Morris then shortly departed Ferrari when Ferrari were forced to take down the Mission Winnow logos, and I know Ferrari, the Kardashians. Oh my god! Every time my sister used to pull on the Kardashians on TV, I'd just be sitting there thinking, what did I do to deserve this fate? Like, I do not want to be listening to this vacuous nonsense. This is like a slightly more upmarket version of Jersey Shore, or what we used to have in Britain, a program called Big Brother, or The Only Way is Essex. And of course, nowadays, we also have a new reality TV show called Love Island. I probably support Leclerc and Sainz quite equally, but dude, I cannot be dealing with those pasta merchants. I mean, look, I would love to go to Maranello one day and visit their factory, just so that I can visit their local ristorantes and their pizzeria and taste all the delicious Italian food they have to offer from that part of the world, but Ferrari are not exactly known for motoring excellence at this point, and I have heard stories where if you are a journalist, you do a test drive with one of their Ferrari supercars, and you are able to detect faults and operational issues with their supercars, you will be banned from test driving Ferraris and doing newspaper reports on them or any sort of media reporting on them. I mean, dude, I don't even know why Ferrari are employing Lewis Hamilton next year, because they're going to become, I mean, I was accused as being a plastic fan that I didn't celebrate Charles' victory. Yeah, because the problem with every Ferrari victory since, like, 2008, they've all been false dawns. Like, they always give you that false sense of hope, that false sense of belief that Ferrari have turned a corner, but for the past 16 years, they always then go back to some strategic disaster class immediately soon afterwards, you know. They won at Monaco. Then a couple of weeks later, they put Charles Leclerc on the wrong tyres, and he ended up having to park his car up because he just ended up falling a lap down, and it became obvious that he couldn't score points. So they decided to save his engine. And then, of course, Carlos Sainz, struggling with the cold temperatures with a car that just couldn't get the tyres warmed up, ended up spinning and crashing into Albon. Oh, yeah, Chris Harris is banned from testing Ferraris. That's what I was thinking of. And, oh, say, Rigora, you, my friend, are a glutton for punishment. I could not be you. I just couldn't do it. But then, of course, you do support Manchester United, so I mean, look, I mean, if you're satisfied with winning the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, and maybe occasionally winning the Europa League once in a while, yeah, I mean, I suppose it's great, but I mean, personally, I just sit there and spend all my time laughing at Man United and Scuderia Ferrari these days. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Vettel and Ferrari will always be an iconic partnership, just like Alonso Ferrari will always be an evocative partnership with many images of the two together. But Kimi Raikkonen won a championship with Ferrari. You can't match that. You can't match that. Oh. Oh, right, yeah, what's it? Ball Classical, what's it? Pep Guardiola versus... Wait, did what's his name? Valverde have to shave his head because he got cancer? I don't know. I'm trying to think. Has there been a bald guy managing Barcelona recently, or is that their new manager? I don't know, but yeah. I mean, the funniest thing is that with what's his name, Enzo Maresca, and of course I'm trying to think of his name, Arnie Slot. I think those two are what you would call like Pep Guardiola disciples. I mean, Eric Ten Hag is basically just, I don't know, a get it done type of manager, because of course, I mean, he does. I mean, obviously he wants to play better football, but he doesn't have the resources. Okay, a theory here. Successful driver, but is hated as a rival by other guys' fan base. Goes to Ferrari, and it is loved by all fans. Yeah, I do. I think it has always been a well-known fact that a lot of the most popular drivers in F1 have driven for the Maranello boys. I mean, it does. Driving for the prancing horse does improve your standing among certain fans in the sport. But we have to realise, though, Lewis Hamilton's move to Ferrari has come extremely late in the day in terms of Hamilton's career. This is the Indian summer of Hamilton's career stage now. And I know I did see quite a few Ferrari fans announce that they were going to stop supporting Ferrari now because of Hamilton's move, because they've had such a long-standing rivalry with Hamilton, whether he's driven for McLaren or Mercedes. I have to say it is a huge monumental shift in the sports dynamic to have Hamilton move to a team that he's had to fight so many championships with. I mean, it's almost like, what if Steven Gerrard had joined Man United in his playing career? Or, I mean, I know Sol Campbell left Tottenham for Arsenal, and that was controversial, but, I mean, Ayrton Senna never drove for Ferrari, and yet he was one of the most popular drivers in the sport, even outside of South America. He had something of a medium-sized but very loyal fan base over here in Europe. And I think there was once a survey done in France where I think there were more people who reported themselves to be Ayrton Senna fans than Alan Prost fans. Anyway, Alonso and Renault seemed like a match in heaven, even illegally at times. That's because they had Flavio Briatore in charge of the team. Oh, yeah, Tevez the City, yeah, but I don't know, man. United versus City rivalry is a really weird one because of City's having spent so many years in the wilderness, fighting a promotion and relegation to the Championship in League One. And of course, their sudden meteoric rise of success after 2010. But yeah. I don't know what to say. You know what? Ask me any question you want because I've now run out of things to say. Let's do a Q&A, folks. Of course, just so you know, once I end this stream, go to my Encore Football channel where I will be doing a special predictions using a dice roll. Look at this. I'm going to be rolling the dice in terms of my predictions, of course. I will explain the rules of how this dice will predict the football matches. Sorry, Silverback. I don't want to be talking about politics on my channel. To be honest, I know, obviously, we over here in Britain, we've also got an election coming up. We've got an election coming up on the 4th of July. Your Independence Day in America, but of course, yeah, I mean, dude, I kind of would rather just stick to talking about sport mostly right now because I don't want to have people argue with you or me. Who can swim faster? A dog or a horse? I don't know. Can a horse swim? I don't know. I've never seen horses swim. You know what? I think oh, right, yeah, will Man City keep Pep Guardiola? Yeah, dude, I think I could do, we'll talk about the football on my Encore Football channel. I think I saw your name subscribed to it, so, wait for my dice roll predictions. McLaren, yeah. To be fair, was it? If you drive for McLaren, you are going, a driver can easily raise his profile if he drives for McLaren as well, or Mercedes, or Red Bull, because let's face it, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, and Red Bull, I think at this point, are the 4 big names in Formula One. I mean, Daniel Kvyat has quite a lot of fans because he did have a brief spell at Red Bull. Okay, I'll admit, if we go back really far back to 2006, Christian Klein and Robert Dorbos do not have a particularly high profile despite driving Red Bull, but that's because, of course, Red Bull were not a top team at the time, and neither did Antonio Giovinazzi. But ever since like 2009, I think driving for Red Bull does give you a high profile. That's for certain. Sainz could go to Alpine. If Sainz goes to Alpine, that means that Jack Doohan will not be able to drive for Alpine, and I think that will probably mean that Jack Doohan will never race in F1. Why do English store eggs on the counter? I don't know. I think it's because people in Britain do not see eggs as being perishable items. Personally, I do like butter, but do I blame it on this? I don't know. I'll go with C, Boogie. How many licks do you get till you get to the center of Tootsie Pop? Is that an American thing? I'm not sure what you mean by Tootsie Pop. God Lord. Michael Schumacher propaganda right there I don't know. I swear to God, like any Ferrari fans that come around and say, I don't like Michael Schumacher, I just sit there and think, how the hell can you be a Ferrari fan then? Because Michael Schumacher is synonymous with Ferrari. He is synonymous. Oh yeah, I think I think that's like because Britain and America have got different food standards. Because I know in Britain, like we have like a really rigorous like food standards agency when it comes to like doing Ofcom investigations on restaurants and like government protocols in terms of food and health and safety standards. Whilst when I've watched Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, like I could tell the difference between like the health and safety standards between like British restaurants and American restaurants, where the American restaurants clearly had much worse food standards, if I'm going to be honest. Kiefer? Oh, Kiefer Chew. Oh, yeah, that guy. Oh, my God. Oh, my God, Kiefer Chewer. Oh, my Lord. I think that Prime, I don't know. God, I'm trying to think. What would he say? He would probably say something like Prime Jody Scheckter would be Prime Fernando Alonso or something silly like that. An Alpine Ferrari engine. Yes, I forgot. Yeah, Alpine are reconsidering their Renault Works program. Alpine, I mean, Alpine with a Ferrari engine, that would be the weirdest flex ever because, I mean, Alpine, when they were called Ferrari, used to have a rivalry for Alpine in the 2000s, I beg your pardon, when they used to be called Renault, I beg your pardon, obviously had a rivalry for Ferrari for, I think, the 982, 983, 2006 World Championships. And of course, I mean, I know there's been like jokes made on social media about the sight of McLaren using Ferrari engines. Yeah. Of course, I think it's pretty safe to say that it is no coincidence that all of the teams that Ferrari have supplied customer engines to, whether it was, I don't know, the old Toro Rosso team, or Minardi, which was what they were called in the 1990s, or like Sauber, and of course Haas, have all been much smaller teams than their team. Like Ferrari would never supply engines to a team anywhere that had like anywhere near close to like 50% of Ferrari's resources. I mean, maybe Alpine could use Mercedes engines. I mean, I know they did that in 2015 when they were called Lotus, which, mind you, they took the Lightspeed racing team who used the Lotus name during 2010 and 2011 to court, and Lightspeed were forced to do like a commercial deal with Caterham for the 2012, 13, and 14 seasons just to keep their team going in F1. Force India. Well, no, that was, oh yeah, but that was for like what, 2 years, was it? No, it was only for like 1 year, was it? Wasn't it? Because what's it? Jordan really did turn into a very funny team towards the end of like, I don't know, when they got sold to that Russian guy in 2005. I think actually they brought Colin Coles as a team principal. 2006, they became Midland. That's got to be the worst name for an F1 team. And they chose that horribly garish grey and red colour for their car. And they were using Toyota engines. So, I mean, my God, that was the weirdest partnership I ever saw. Like, obviously, Jordan were the ones who signed up with the Toyota engine partnership. I think that was the last thing Eddie Jordan did with Jordan was sign the team up to use Toyota engines because, of course, Ford announced their departure from F1 at the end of 2004, and of course, they didn't want their name to be used in relation to any engines in the sport for 2005. So, and I think because Jordan were not certain about Ford and Cosworth being able to carry on for 2004, then of course they went and switched to Toyota engines before, of course, Eddie Jordan then sold the team to the Russian guy. Spiker obviously then took over Midland and they signed a deal with Ferrari. And of course, we all know why Ferrari signed that deal, because it meant that was more money for Ferrari. And of course, they knew that Spiker, having only just last won a race about 4 years previously, had fallen off a cliff so much that there was no threat to be made to them. I mean, it's funny to think that between, like, what was it, 2002, Jordan was still a semi-competitive midfield team, scoring points with Giancarlo Fisichella and Takuma Sato. No, I think DHL, did they change their colour to yellow because of Jordan? I don't know. I think that's more of a like a witch's tale that Eddie Jordan likes to tell people, because obviously he likes to big himself up and makes him look like this really smart, cunning businessman, when truth be told, he wasn't quite as impressive as he thought he was. But then by like 2003, like they went, like after they won the Brazilian Grand Prix, they then became the second slowest team on the grid, and they basically stayed that way until like what, the end of 2009. I think they had like 6 years when they were, I don't know, almost 6 years when they were basically stuck near the back of the grid. And it was only about like halfway through 2009 when I think Adrian Sutil like was making a run for the points of the 2009 German Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, where Force India began to show signs that they could actually become a midfield team again. I gotta say it, Vijay Mallya did do a great job in his time at Force India, repairing the team, rebuilding the structure, modernising the team somewhat, despite, of course, the fact that he did, of course, eventually had to sell the team on. I'm sorry, I've just dropped my dice, so... Oh yeah, I found it. But anyway, 2010 and 2012, great season. Fisichella won. I can't keep. Oh yeah, the 2003 Brazilian Grand Prix. Oh, the timing screens broke, didn't they? I think they had a timing error, which meant that everyone thought that Fisichella was on lap 55 when in fact he'd already started lap 56. And of course, just so you know, of course, Kimi Raikkonen finished 2 points behind Michael Schumacher. Even if Kimi Raikkonen had kept that victory for the 2003 Brazilian Grand Prix, he would have still have lost the 2003 championship on count back, since of course Schumacher won 6 races, and even with the Brazilian Grand Prix, that would have only been 2 race wins for Kimi that year. So, well, I mean, to be honest, as we all know, I think obviously the European Grand Prix at the Nürburgring was the race that truly costed Kimi that championship. That Brazilian Grand Prix meant zilch in the grand scheme of things. Well, apparently people can't make up their minds over whether Daniel Ricciardo could join Williams or Sauber. Interestingly enough, none of those 5 votes have gone to Alpine, which I think a lot of people, including me, think that it's more likely that they'll re-sign Carlos Sainz or they'll promote Jack Zhou into a seat in F1 for next season. So, gotta say it. I mean, obviously, Jack Zhou himself is Australian, so I think Australia as a country has moved on for the need for Daniel Ricciardo's presence in Formula 1 nowadays. I mean, Jack Zhou is, of course, the son of Mick Zhou. Great. I mean, at sharing the name with a 5-6 time motorcycling champion is fairly commercially viable in itself. So I think, unfortunately, if it does come down to Ricciardo and Zhou, Dan Ricciardo has actually got to realise he's also competing against a young driver who himself has got some marketing potential on him. So even though, of course, Jack Zhou is taking the season out because, of course, he's done 2 years of Formula 2 and he's going to spend this season as a simulator driver for Alpine. Yeah, I think if it does come down to a fight between Ricciardo and Zhou, I think he's going to lose out. And look at that. I think there's now more people who think that he could be going to Williams, which I think it's pretty safe to say if Ricciardo loses to Alex Albon, that's going to be it for Ricciardo. There's no way Ricciardo can last in F1 any longer. And I have to say, I do question whether Daniel Ricciardo would be willing to take like a much reduced salary of something like, what, $2 million a year just to stay in Formula 1. And I will not be surprised if Daniel Ricciardo just submits his own P45 and never decides to join V8 supercars or Indy or NASCAR or whatever, because is it really worth it? We bank points, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if he goes to Williams, that's basic. I mean, he'll basically turn into like a Vettel/Kimi Räikkönen driver, picking up his final pension package. Although, to be fair, that's what Checo Perez is doing at Red Bull in that. Let's be honest, he's checked out mentally of that Red Bull seat. I think Perez knows he's wasting his time, and he's only going to continue at Red Bull for as long as he's going to do, because of course he knows he won't ever receive a salary package as big as what he's getting in whatever racing series he might do in the future, whether it's IndyCar, NASCAR, I don't know, flying kites. Oh yeah, Robert Cooper, it's a really sad story, isn't it? Very, very sad story. I mean, I suppose what's it, Robert Kubica, you can't stop a man from like enjoying his hobbies and leisure time, but I mean, Kimi Räikkönen's done all sorts of racing outside of F1, NASCAR, rally cars, but yeah, he never ever had an accident that took him out of action. So I suppose Kubica was in some ways very unfortunate to have his accident, and of course we have seen drivers get killed behind the wheel in rallying because, of course, I mean, how much safety enforcement can you plonk on a rally car when you are risking a driver's life against hitting a tree, a barge pole, rocks, trees, a sniper placed there by, I don't know, Nikita Mazepin. He beat John Eric Verr to move up to Red Bull. kind of interesting when you think about it, because I think John-Eric Verne actually scored more points than Ricciardo in 2012. But the problem with John-Eric Verne was that his qualifying was absolutely shambolically poor. Yeah, the Adrian Newey saga, I just sit there and think, I think the only reason why people keep speculating about Adrian Newey is because obviously, I think it's just mostly Williams fans who are desperate for someone to help their team go back to the top. But I don't really know if Adrian Newey's return would be enough to rescue Williams Grand Prix engineering at this point. Sorry, I just had to do it. I mean, I've got no idea what Mazepin's family are doing these days, because I think after Mazepin was forced to leave Formula One because, of course, Russian money was banned from the sport, he did go and compete in some Dakar rally style race. Don't know what if that came off it. I think he also had a brief spell in Asian Le Mans sports cars, where the less said about his performances, the better, because Marcus Winkelhock, what a driver. Marcus Winkel. Oh, right, I know maybe Alguersuari is a DJ these days. I don't know, it does seem to be something, you know, have you noticed that a lot of DJs come from, like, rich families? Like, is it just me, or am I one of those very few people who actually can't stand, like, electronic music? Because, like, every time I just hear, like, some massive speaker pumping out his beats, I'm just like, oh God, can you turn that sound down? Like, I don't care anymore. I'm not 18 years old. I don't like this sort of music. I'm a grumpy old man these days. Yeah, I mean, Formula One are full of hypocrites, like, seriously. I don't know, mate. Formula One is in such a mess in terms of where it likes to take its money from, because, of course, I mean, we can argue all day long, should it be in Qatar, should be taking money from Bahrain? I mean, the problem with Formula One is that there's also a problem with the sport in the fact that obviously there is the green lobby, as we call it, the environmental climate change lobby, who keeps saying, you know, Formula One is causing so much damage to the environment. But I mean, a lot of the sort of people that work for, like, or participate in just oil rally campaigns with Greta Thunberg, they tend to be from very wealthy families themselves. So it's like, and they always happen to be snapping their holidays out to somewhere like Thailand or Fiji, the Easter Islands. I don't know. I mean, I'm much younger than you, Silverback, and I already have had enough of going to nightclubs. So, I mean, the sort of music I listen to is just basically like the old rock and metal music I used to listen to about 20 years ago now. So it's like, I've basically just gone back to being like 15 years old in terms of my music taste. I mean, I know I used to be a huge fan of Daft Punk, but when I was like 10 years old, that is. And I used to listen to all that hip hop and pop music when I was just 10 years old, but I think for some reason I just began to really hate it from like not hate it, but like gradually come off it from like 11 years old onwards, from like 2002. Because I just listened to it and I thought, God, this seems really vapid and soulless. I don't know. And then I started listening to Feeder and Deftones instead. And then of course my sister began to listen to it's a bit of a tricky place that I'm in now when I sit there and start talking about music, because it's such a mixed bag. Around the world, around the world. Yeah, I know, but yeah, I've not listened to Daft Punk for like 10, 20 years now. Like, I just don't find it very. I don't know. I mean, I sort of find. I mean, I remember was it they had that grid walk with Kimi Räikkönen and Roman Grosjean when he did a promotion with Lotus at the 2013 Monaco Grand Prix. Oh, okay, fair enough. I don't know. I think the problem is that I'm trying to think from like 2005, 2006 onwards. I really actually did become actually quite a big fan of some hardcore and death metal bands around that time period. It's a bit of a funny one because there is a bit of a, I don't know, around that time they began to, don't know, I mean, it's really weird when you think about hardcore punk music because what was it, that accidentally gave birth to emo rock music, which is sort of odd to think, but it literally came out of that scene. And death metal literally came out from, I don't know, just, I don't know, it's such a weird one. I think that was just basically like metalheads decided to mimic the screaming in hardcore punk songs, and then they ended up with that sort of genre. Still remember, I don't see it. Oh yeah, I think back then I do remember like, oh my god, the massive ear gauge that people used to have back then. So funny. And then of course they have to spend loads of money on having to like re-sew their earlobes together. Absolutely hilarious stuff. Grosjean, favorite song we didn't start the. Still remember throwing on Hall of Fame after the Brazil 2012 Grand Prix. What was that all about? I don't even know, mate. Was that like some was it an F1 program about what happened for the 2012 Grand Prix? I'm a bit confused about what you're talking about. I'm not even sure you're talking about there, say Regara. I'm a bit lost. I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one. Deathcore. It's not so much. What is it? I mean, I know what some of the bands are called. Obviously, I still remember their music, but bands like I'm trying to think, Suicide Silence, Chelsea Green, Chord Effects. I do, but they're not bands I've been listening to for like 10 years now. I just got it just became a bit of it became a complete parody of itself after a very quickly. I think it's more like really old school death metal bands like Death, Morbid Angel. That's what I was thinking of. Bolt Thrower from like the 80s and the 90s. Because at the very least, it didn't become like a complete joke. Even though I know they're very boomerish now when you think about it. But hey, I mean, I could literally, I mean, obviously, I was very well aware of what was it, the whole third wave emo thing. That's, I don't know what to say because that became a very much a popular figure between normies by like, I don't know, 2006 and 2007. I mean, I think a lot of people in those bands thought that they would never make it big, but somehow they did. And I think it was partly due to the fact that everyone got fed up of listening to, like, I don't know, all those boy bands like Westlife, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. I mean, they all had a bit of a shelf life. Gangnam. Oh, right, you're talking about the music used for the Korean Grand Prix, and then the organisers started playing that song. Oh, I don't know. I think the thing with Sai the rapper is that he actually brought K-pop into the Western ears, weirdly enough, because I think before then, like, he never saw any Korean boy bands around, but because of him, then the Koreans started to really were able to start throwing money at all those pop bands they've got now and making all that money. I see you as a smooth jazz person. I don't know. What does smooth jazz sound like? The red Mercedes in the video for what's that, Gangnam Style? What is it? I don't know what to say about that. Smooth jazz. I don't even know anything about jazz music. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I suppose jazz music is relaxing to listen to, but if you ask me anything about jazz music, I just go completely blank. I'm just like, who's that person? Who's that artist? I've got no idea. My brain goes completely missing. Oh, right. I don't know who Miles Davis is. Oh, yeah, the 2006 and '08 Formula One theme tune for ITV. Oh, yeah, the casino roulette wheel. David Coulthard dressed up as a James Bond villain. Jenson Button, Lewis Hamilton, Anthony Davidson. I don't know. And then, of course, there were all those grid girls like waving the checkered flag around. I could remember like the amount of marketing hype that the British media had for Lewis Hamilton at the time was absolutely apocalyptic. But it's so funny to think that, look, Kimi Raikkonen won the British Grand Prix in 2007. But mind you, I was not able to watch the race because I was actually going on holiday to Hong Kong at the time. I could remember being really annoyed that day because I really wanted to watch the race, and I got annoyed even further when I realised Kimi Raikkonen had won the race. I was like, "Oh my god, I wanted to be there, chanting Kimi's name at a racetrack, but nope, nope. What a shame! What a shame." Of course, I don't think I'll ever visit a Formula One race. Like, I know I actually went to see, what was it, the Renault World Series um, Formula Renault package at Donington Park a few months later when I think my family won free tickets to go to a Donington Park weekend a couple of months later in September, and I saw like what was it, the 2006 Renault doing like a demonstration on the track between the races, and they had, what was it, that old French test driver do a, I don't know, wheel spin display with donuts and everything. I think his name was Jonathan Cochet. To be fair, I don't want to go through my music taste too much because, of course, there's just loads of esoteric rock and metal bands filled throughout it. Even so, like, the funniest thing is that if you actually ask me about rock music from like a lot of rock music from like the 60s, 70s, and 80s, my mind actually goes blank because I don't know, I mean, this is the weirdest thing is that I do have a habit of forgetting like music artist name a lot. I'm not very good at remembering like singles or like album names very well. I just remember how like a certain guitar solo goes, a few lyrics here and there, and so on and so forth. Chaos, was that? Oh my god, is that Josh Holmes' old band, Chaos? Because I know was it. That was the band he was in before he joined Queens of the Stone Ages. Oh yeah, was it? Pretty weird to think of Josh Holmes because of course he then got married to Brody Dahl. I wonder what became of those two. Actually, let's not talk about Josh Homme and Brody Dahl because I think This is not a Kardashians gossip channel, and unfortunately, the situation between the pair of them is really bleak. It's not good. Nevada. Oh my god, Nevada was so ridiculously popular when they were around. I will say I used to listen to Nevada quite a fair bit when I was a teenager, but I just got sick of their music, like just hearing their music everywhere now. It's just like, oh. And it's like every time there's like the anniversary of Kirk's death, I'm just sort of like, yeah, I'm done with it. Like, the music kind of was like a backlash towards Motley Crue and the glam rock era, but the thing is, though, like, how long can you stay in that phase of being an angry, moody teenager, eh? It just can't last forever. Like, I mean, it very quickly then got replaced by, like, I don't know, the alternative metal / new metal bands like, what's it, Slipknot, Limp Bizkit very soon afterwards. I mean, I know there were some great bands that came around the same time as Nirvana, like Alice in Chains and Soundgarden. But I will say, though, I don't know any of their album names. I know what they vaguely sound like, but like, if you ask me, like, what are those songs called, I'd be like, I don't know. I just know it's Soundgarden. That's it. Courtney Love. What the hell? What on earth happened to Courtney Love? I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, I think Kurt Cobain was suffering from like serious like health issues throughout his life, because I think he had like a problem with his stomach, which caused him serious pain. And he basically became a drug addict in order to like numb his own feeling of pain. It was like his version of anesthesia, injecting heroin into his bloodstream, which is pretty grim, to be honest, to think about it. I think he was just born with like genetic health defects, I'm afraid. I don't know, Limp Bizkit. I think I've heard of Wes Borland's like guitar tracks for like. Did he? I think he was like, he had a brief spell with a band called From First to Last, which I know some people might cringe at, because of course Skrillex was their singer before. Of course, I mean, back when he used to be with From First to Last, he actually went by his birth name of Sonny Moore, and of course he sung with a really high-pitched voice, and it was like, yeah. But of course, I mean, and the music videos were very much cookie cutter emo goth vibes going on. Just Kurt Weiss. Who the hell is Kurt? I don't know who the hell Kurt Weiss is, mate. I'm sorry, never mind. Oh, you began to like Formula One because of anime and manga. Well, I tell you how I got into Formula One. My neighbour gave me a video game based on the 1998 F1 season. And unfortunately, it kind of I don't know, mate. I don't want to be going through like stories about how Kurt Cobain ended up being deleted. I mean, dude, I don't think anyone will ever know truly how he ended up suddenly having his life ended at 27, whether it was because of himself or whether it was some assailant used to be a hitman to kill him. I don't want to go through that sort of stuff, because it is being proven that a lot of famous musicians do die, like, on average, about 20 years younger than your average person. So, like, a lot of people in the music industry do tend to have much shorter life expectancies on average. So it's not really like, honest to God, like, some of the people that work in the music industry are absolute snakes. They are snakes. You have to watch these people out. They are vipers. I think I don't want to be starting an argument about what really happened to certain people when they died, what really happened, as some people would say. I know there's still a lot of conspiracy theories about what really happened when Ed decided to crash this car at Imola. There's so many conspiracies. It's just oh yeah, there's always loads of rock and metal music at wrestling shows. Funnily enough, I have never actually been a fan of WWE or any of that wrestling stuff because I just can't get into it. I just can't. For some reason, the whole vibe is just not my thing, and the fact that they don't hide the fact that it's completely fake makes me just sit there and think, yeah, I'm just here. It's just a minstrel show. Oh, yeah. People dying at 27. I mean, to be fair, there's plenty of rappers who die before they're even 21 years old, so there's that. And what was it? I did mention earlier on, I did say that I actually am still a fan of a metal band called Death, even though obviously they released their last album back in 1998 because Chuck Schuldiner, the one-man act that was like who had all the copyrights to that band named Death, because of course he fell out with a load of band members back in like the late 1980s. They stole the name from him, so he took over the copyright of that name, and he said, and he just basically hired a bunch of session musicians for all the remaining 6 or 7 albums he did afterwards. Unfortunately, died of a brain tumor in 2001. Like, I know there's like conspiracy theories on like loads of like metal forums that he was secretly a homo because they claim that if you die of pneumonia at the age of like 34, that's like a disease that caught by men who get diagnosed with AIDS. I don't know. 115, like, oh, what the hell is that? Mr. Ed the talking. I don't even know that. I'm gonna have to type Mr. Ed the talking horse on YouTube or go on like go and find out who the hell he is. Yeah, mate. I think Tupac, Notorious, Biggie. Yeah, well, the problem with rap music is that I just look at it and I just see like whenever I see like some suburban white kid who's like 19 years old rapping, I'm just like sitting there thinking, yeah, this genre of music is actually really kind of become a joke now. It's just sort of like become like a platform for like it's basically replaced rock music in terms of platforming the very worst people in society and their desires and their excesses. It's sort of like because basically it's just so much easier to produce rap music with one person who can just like hire a bunch of like producers for like £500 or $800 or whatever it is and just produce a very simple rap track compared to like a rock band where you have like where you need like 4 or 5 people, and of course all the band politics that get involved. Well, I mean, those 3 names you've just mentioned are still alive and well today, so okay, not everyone dies. I suppose once the big names are like protected from being killed. And I will say I would not be surprised if something happened to Kanye West very soon because he's made a lot of people upset recently. That's all I'm going to say. Although of course I will say Kanye West does have a very good strategy in terms of going incognito. Yeah, but dude, that was like 20 odd years ago now. Like, that's really like, I have completely forgotten all these sort of beefs between all these rappers now. I really don't care. And to be honest, I feel like I just seems really sort of like 10-year-old school kid behavior, to be honest, when I think about it. I mean, the most like, I think the last time I like heard of any sort of rap beef was probably between Eminem and, of course, Machine Gun Kelly. Machine Gun Kelly rocked up to the paddock at the Brazilian Grand Prix, or the Sao Paulo Grand Prix as it's called these days, and told Martin Brundle to F off, which was extremely polite, I will say. Yeah, I know back in the 80s there used to be what was called the Parent Music Commission or whatever it was, which saw like loads of like, I don't know, mums that type characters, like all these like middle-aged women, like going out of their way trying to police like the lyrical content of like rock and rappers music, but almost the whole music industry bandied together to like tell these mothers to shut up. But then, of course, because of that, music by law, I think music companies were forced to slap the parental advisory logo onto all these albums. Like, I think Prince's album was the first album that got given a parental advisory cover. Yeah, well, yeah, mate. Politics in most of the, I don't know. We are living in very, very crazy times, I've got to say, in terms of politics. I honestly don't know what's going to happen in the next year or two. Anything could happen. Anything's on the cards. Like, when Brexit happened, I will say I was absolutely shocked back in 2016. But of course, the UK, which is the country I live in, also known as Great Britain, the United Kingdom, left the European Union, and that caused all sorts of shockwaves. People were arguing with each other like cats and dogs. There's a bit of a problem though. Like, Joe Biden is not a very good president, mate. Like, you can say what you want about Donald Trump and Joe Biden, but I kind of get the feeling Joe Biden was only able to run for president as a mostly a anti Donald Trump / get rid of Donald Trump type of candidate by the Democrat Party. I mean, you have to realize it's a really weird situation with Donald Trump, because I thought you were going to get bombed at. Oh, we were gonna get bombed. What the hell? Bloody hell. What were there rumours that people thought Russia were gonna come and launch missiles at Britain or something? Oh dear. And apparently 10 people have now voted on my poll about Dan Ricciardo, and 40% think they could be going to Haas, which of course we all know Haas like to do a lot of talking on Drive to Survive, and I think he would be a very useful marketing asset at the Haas F1 team. I've not watched Drive to Survive for about a couple of years now, which is a bit funny because I don't know. It does make me wonder, what will Haas do for the next Drive to Survive? Will they be asking Io Komatsu, who has been like the deputy team principal until this year, to now take over Gunther Steiner's role as the marketing spokesperson for Haas? Oh my God, 2016, yeah. Leicester City won the Premier League. What are they called? The New York Cubs won the baseball World Series or whatever it's called. What other freak occurrence happened? I mean, I know some people have tried to say that Nico Rosberg winning the championship was sort of a weird, result considering he was getting beat by Lewis Hamilton for 2 years running before that. Portugal's Euro 2016 win it's a bit of a weird one because the football they played was very defensive. It was sort of similar to what Greece had played in 2004. And the fact it was actually their first ever international trophy, believe it or not, because, I mean, 2004, no, not 2004, I think Portugal, despite being seen as one of the big international teams of international football, have actually had a very, 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 very strange record in that. I think, apart from the 1966 World Cup where they reached the semi-finals and I think they got bronze medal for winning the third place match, they had a really terrible time being able to qualify for like the World Cup and the European Championships right up until about like Euro 2000. I think they had a terrible checkered track record. Oh, the Leicester chairman, that Thai guy, apparently won a lot of money in the casino the same day as Leicester won the Premier League. I don't know. I mean, Kevin Magnussen doesn't look like he's going to survive very long in Formula One, if I'm going to be honest. Frank Zappa destroyed who? Oh, right. Was it the Parents Music Commission? Yeah, I think that was it, wasn't it? Yeah. It's funny that because I think it's very interesting that the Parents Music Commission tried so hard to censor music in the 80s, but yet, I don't know, I think music artists began to censor themselves now. I mean, I know, what was it? I know a band I used to listen to 20 odd years ago called, what was it, Censors Fail, suddenly decided to censor some of their own lyrics that they used to write 20 odd years ago, and then it caused like a massive, well, not a massive argument, it caused an argument between themselves and their like long-standing fan base, because they're not like that big these days, who got annoyed at the fact that they were really angry at some of their lyrics being censored from like 2002. So yeah, I mean, we don't even need a Parents Music Commission or anything like that, because if anything, people are now just... Murray finishes #1 in the world. Murray Walker? Hazard banger wins Leicester City the Premier League. Oh yeah, was it that goal that Tottenham conceded, which meant, of course, Tottenham couldn't win the game. And then, oh yeah, then Leicester City were all sitting on their couches, like all the players were all like gathered around at Jamie Vardy's house, and then he popped open a champagne. Oh my God, and the whole team were jumping up and down, and then N'Golo Kante was being raised into the air. Yeah, I mean, as much as I would like to sit there and talk about what an amazing moment it was for English football as a whole for Leicester City to win, as a Derby County fan, I was extremely jealous. I was like, why can't that be us? Why can't that be us? Taking the fight to the big boys, eh? Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Tottenham got 9 yellow cards. But guess what? Turkey had like 10 yellow cards yesterday against the Czech Republic. I think there was a record 18 yellow cards being handed out for that game yesterday between the Czechs and the Turkish. And I think a Czech player even picked up a red card when the final whistle blew. And of course, during the game itself, Antoine Barak got sent off after just 25 minutes. I have to say, even though the Czechs went down to 10 men, I completely forgot about the fact that they were man down, because, I mean, the Turks really struggled to, like, win that game. But, you know, I don't know what it is. I will tell you though, like, Kimi Raikkonen's driving a 2007 Japanese Grand Prix at Fuji in the pouring rain was one hell of an underrated performance. He was forced to go to the pits because Ferrari fitted the wrong tyres because apparently they didn't get the warning about the monsoon conditions coming to the track. So, but because the FIA, being the FIA, decided that if the Ferrari should get sanctioned, they forced Kimi and Massa to pit just before the safety car went back to the pit, so they both dropped to like 20th and 21st place. And Kimi had to drive through the pouring rain to overtake Ralf Schumacher, David Coulthard, and 10 other cars. And of course, wait for the likes of, Alonso, Vettel, Webber to crash out in order to make his way up to third place. Truly, probably the greatest drive of his whole career, even better than the 2005 Japanese Grand Prix, I tell you. Okay, I'm a bit confused. That's the Man City story, but I don't know. It just seems all a bit weird to see Man City like go from like a mid-table Premier League club to a club that were able to then suddenly just win Premier League titles and look like one of the big teams about, when was it? A space of 4 years, was it? 4 or 5 years? It didn't take that long for Man City to explode in terms of strength and power. I mean, obviously, yes, I know you get clubs like Aston Villa and Everton who have spent a fortune trying to be top teams and actually achieve very little success with it. But, it's all about employing the right personnel, the right managers, have to have a bunch of owners who know how to make good business decisions, reform the academy. Like, it's not just about having billions of pounds in your bank account. It's about knowing what to do with that money. But at the same time, of course, Man City do have 115 charges against them, so who knows what's going to happen to them now, eh? Kimi Raikkonen moment, favourite Kimi Raikkonen moment. Oh my word, we could go on and 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 on. I don't know. I think I could compile a top 20 list for Kimi Raikkonen. Winning his first Grand Prix at the Malaysian Grand Prix 2003. Getting pole position at the Nürburgring. Less said about what happened the next day, the better. Getting pole at Indianapolis. Winning at Spa-Francorchamps, which funnily I missed in 2004 because I went out shopping like a complete buffoon. And he started P10 at the start of the race. Oh my God, so many performances in 2005. Oh my Lord, like, that was a robbery that he lost that championship. Like, that Mercedes engine was made out of, like, I don't know, paper mache or something. Getting pole position at the 2006 German Grand Prix when no one thought McLaren had a chance of doing anything that year, and yet Kimi went and picked up 3 pole positions on no fuel runs. I think the Italian I think on pure pace, I think actually Kimi got the pole positions at Hungary and Italy by pure merit, because of course I think obviously he was in contention to win the race at Hungary before he hit Liuzzi, and then of course at Monza, he narrowly lost the race to Michael Schumacher, but still, my God, he was really quick in the second half of 2006. Of course, 2007, winning the championship, having been 17 points behind with just 2 races to go. And of course, that did take a huge flip in circumstance because, of course, after the American Grand Prix that year, where, of course, the one and only Sebastian Vettel made his debut in Formula One, Kimi Raikkonen was 26 points behind Lewis Hamilton. What a turnaround that was, seriously. Yes, I know the fact that McLaren were involved in Spygate did help Kimi, but Kimi Räikkönen was due a bit of luck that year. I don't know, winning the 2009 Belgian Grand Prix in that dreadful F60 car looked like more like a gardening tool than an F1 car, but hey, got the job done. Winning the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, where of course we all remember his radio message that day. Winning Australia a few months later, when of course he started 7th and made the tyres last on a 2-stop strategy. And then, of course, I mean, the next 5 years after that were really painful. Of course, winning at Kota, what a day. And I think, of course, I was so happy that I got the chance to do a video post-race where I was, like, barely even able to speak properly. Like, I nearly started crying that day because, of course, it did stick. I was well aware of the fact that that was probably going to be his final F1 win. And I was just so glad I was able to see Kimi Räikkönen win one more race whilst I was doing this, of course, this Crystal Racing channel. I don't know, that start at Portugal where he overtook 10 cars on the first lap from P16 to P6. I mean, I don't know what else, to be honest. Oh, yeah, walking back to his yacht after his car blew up at Monaco. I could remember, like, even though everyone was laughing, I think I was probably one of the very few people who was not laughing because I was like, I was just so done with McLaren at that point. I was like, once again, Kimi Räikkönen's engine blows up for like the 35th time during a race weekend at that team. Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know what, I'm getting a bit tired of doing this stream. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to go to my Encore Football channel to talk about my predictions, but I'll be rolling a dice. So I really am interested to find out what results my predictions are going to come out for the rest of the Euro 2024 tournament. And thank you for watching. Over and out.